Hello and welcome. Have you ever just stopped and wondered what's really going on in your head when you're thinking? And then, what happens when all that mental machinery seems to run in reverse while you're dreaming? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the fascinating mechanics of thought itself. I mean, we all do it every single night, right? But where do our dreams actually come from? Are they just random, bizarre movies our brain decides to play for itself? Or is there something much more structured, maybe even purposeful going on? That's the big mystery we're unpacking today. And here's the core idea we're going to explore, and it comes from this really interesting theory called the Brain Kinematics Model. It suggests that dreams aren't random noise at all. Nope. They're more like the echoes of your day. They're the process of your mind breaking down all the emotional and mental leftovers from when you were awake. It's like a nightly reset button. So to really get our heads around this, we're going to follow a pretty clear path. First, we'll look at those echoes of the day. Then we'll get into how a thought is actually built from the ground up, and how a dream is the exact opposite, a process of unwinding. After that, we'll uncover the three core energies that drive this whole thing, and finally, what it all means for keeping our minds in balance. All right, so we all know dreams can be just weird and chaotic, but what if that chaos is actually a really structured process? To understand how the mind takes things apart at night, we've first got to see how it puts everything together during the day.
So how does a simple sensation, like the feeling of the sun on your skin or the sound of someone's voice, turn into a really complex idea? Well, it's a forward-flowing journey through the brain. It's a process of synthesis. Let's trace that path.
Think of it like a bunch of small streams all merging into one powerful river. It starts in the parietal cortex, where sensation gets anchored as a basic concrete symbol. Then it flows to the temporal cortex, and that symbol gets woven into little stories and memories. Next up, the hippocampus and amygdala jump in and just drench it in powerful emotion. This is where it starts to matter to us. And finally, the prefrontal cortex takes this big, rich emotional story and stabilizes it into a neat, abstract concept, an idea. So, the really crucial point here is this. Our waking life is all about building up. We take simple, raw data from our senses, and we construct these elaborate, meaningful concepts. We are constantly integrating the world into complex thoughts. But what happens when we go to sleep? This is where it gets really, really cool. Because when we fall asleep, that entire process flips into reverse. Instead of building up, the mind starts breaking things down. It's a journey backwards, from these complex ideas all the way back into raw sensory images. So that powerful river we talked about, now it flows all the way back to its source. It starts in the prefrontal cortex, where that stable concept begins to lose its logical grip. Then, the emotional energy that was tied to it gets released by the hippocampus and amygdala. This energy then just fragments into these bizarre pieces of stories, sounds, and memories in the temporal cortex. And finally, these fragments completely dissolve back into the raw, symbolic images we experience in our dreams, right back where we started in the parietal cortex. Look at the beautiful symmetry here. It's incredible. By day, our mind flows forward, basically from the back of the brain to the front, integrating sensations into concepts. Then, by night, that whole flow reverses from front to back, decomposing those concepts back into pure imagery. It's this perfect, cyclical process, like mental housekeeping. But why does this happen? What's the engine that's actually driving these two completely different flows? Well, the Brain Kinematics Model says it all comes down to three fundamental types of energy in the brain. So, yeah, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's actually grounded in a physical model of the brain. The idea is that every single thought, every feeling, every dream, it's all an interaction between three distinct but connected energy layers. Okay, let's break this down a bit. At the very base, you've got the electrochemical layer. This is the raw currency of neurons firing back and forth, and it anchors our basic sensory symbols. Floating above that is the electromagnetic layer, which lets different parts of the brain sync up, allowing us to blend perceptions and even create metaphors. And then at the top, there's a mechanical layer, and you can literally think of this as physical tissue strain, which gives us the stability we need for complex, abstract reasoning. So here it is, the key difference between being awake and dreaming. When we're awake, these three energy layers are all synchronized. They're working together in harmony to produce coherent, logical thought. But when we sleep, they desynchronize. That stable mechanical layer weakens, and it allows the others to run more freely, which is what lets our concepts dissolve back into the raw images of that base electrochemical layer. So, what does all this mean for us? Well, this model suggests that the mind is a kind of self-balancing system. And believe it or not, our own language might hold clues as to how it works. Now, this is a pretty wild idea. The very grammar we use every day might not be arbitrary at all. Instead, it could be a direct reflection of the physical state of these energy layers inside our brain. Let's see how this works. Let's take the simplest state when we say something is, like the sky is blue. According to this model, what we're actually describing is a stable, low-energy state in the brain. It's a state of equilibrium. It corresponds to that mechanical layer holding a concept perfectly steady, almost like a static, unchanging image in a dream. Okay, but what about when something is going to be? Well, that describes a process, a transition, right? It reflects a flowing, medium energy state where the brain's electromagnetic fields are in flux. You can think of it like a dream scene that's smoothly transforming from one thing into another. And finally, we have the most dynamic state of all, will be. This represents a sudden leap, a future resolution. It's the mental equivalent of an aha moment, or one of those shocking, abrupt scene changes in a dream. This reflects a high-energy release, a sudden resolution of tension in the brain's energy fields as a concept just clicks into place. So, to wrap this all up in a nutshell, our mind basically has two primary flows: building concepts by day and taking them apart at night. This entire cycle is powered by the synchronization and desynchronization of three very real physical energy layers, which leads to this amazing conclusion. Dreaming isn't some weird bug in our system. It's a feature. It's absolutely crucial for how our mind stays in balance. And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. If your dreams are basically the story of your mind letting go of the day's conceptual and emotional baggage to find its equilibrium, what residues is your mind trying to process, and what is it trying to tell you tonight? Thanks for tuning in.